welcome back to Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we dive deep into the ways sexuality, intimacy, and the self awareness shape the lives that we live. I'm your host Avik, and today we are exploring a subject that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Yes, it's men's sexuality, consent, and what it really means to cultivate the eroticism with integrity and the joy. So, our guest today is someone whose work is reshaping the conversation. So, please welcome Eric FitzMedrud. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Eric. So, Eric is a therapist specializing in relationship and sexual issues in San Francisco Bay Area, and he's the author of The Better Man: A Guide to Consent, Stronger Relationships, and The Hotter Sex, a book that has already won the critical acclaim and, more importantly, is helping countless men step into healthier and more connected ways to experiencing the intimacy. So, he has trained therapists, taught the graduate courses, and spoken at major conferences. But what makes him so powerful in this space is his lived experience. He's made mistakes, learned the hard way, and now brings that non judgmental wisdom to help men navigate the messy, often confusing world of relationships and the sexuality. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Welcome to the show again, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing. So, Eric, so that you have said before that men often want like more out of their relationships, but don't have the tools to make that happen. So, uh, according to you, like, why do you think so many men struggle to articulate or even understand what they truly want, like sexually or emotionally?
I think that there are often a couple of confusions inside of the man about what he wants and why he wants it. So, for example, he may be looking for emotional comfort, for connection, for emotional intimacy, but he may not know how to ask for that other than to ask for sex. And so a lot of different nuanced needs end up coming out as just one request. And then the other process that often makes it difficult for men, even when they do want something sexual, is that we often have a lot of shame about what we want or what we're interested in. We want to be good men. We want to be polite and kind. We want to be proud of who we are, including who we are sexually. But we receive a lot of messages that some parts of what we might desire are not acceptable, are dirty, are undesirable, are shameful. And that makes it much harder for us to ask for what we want in an open way. We have our own shame, and that makes it harder for us to ask for what we want from our partner. So we often don't use our words. We ask indirectly. We hope perhaps that our partner might be interested in the same things that we are, but it's very difficult for us to ask directly and find out.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah. And do you think that this is more about the cultural conditioning about around the masculinity, or is it kind of something deeper about like how we are taught or not taught? Like,
I think that larger majority of the challenges here come from some aspects of conditioning. And of course, recognizing that when we're speaking with each other, of course, we're talking across some cultural divides. So, for example, in the United States, adolescent men, boys are not allowed to touch each other platonically. There's a lot of shame put on around that, whereas in Indian culture, at least as I experienced when I lived there, there was much more touching, arms around each other, hand holding among male friends. And also at the same time, around sexuality, the colonization experience in India has placed a lot of restrictions around talking around sexuality that are very similar in some ways to what's experienced in the United States. So I think that the shamefulness of sexuality is something that is shared in many ways across the two cultures that we're now speaking across, even in this conversation. And that blanket of shame that makes it difficult for two partners, even two married people, to talk openly about their desires is present in some ways in many globalized
Mm.
experiences.
I agree. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And okay, definitely.
Yeah.
Your book, uh, The Better Man, makes consent a kind of central pillar, and a lot of men hear the word consent and think of it like it's a legal sense, but what you describe it as something more nuanced and even erotic. So, if you can break down for that also.
Sure. So one of the maybe mistakes that many people with high desire, including many men, often make when they think about consent is that they think of consent as a way of asking to get the other person to say yes to what I want. Consent becomes my way of getting what I want.
Mm,
And the error that comes about when people approach consent in that way is that the process of consent just becomes a gate. It becomes very transactional. Let me just ask this question, get you to say yes, and then I can do what I want. And instead, I really like to kind of broaden people's understanding of consent. Instead of consent just being about minimally preventing assault or preventing a partner from feeling violated, consent
mm,
is a pathway to pleasure. Instead of
mm,
just getting my permission to do the specific behavior that I'm interested in, consent is the pathway for me to become a good lover, to create pleasure for my partner, for me to ask my partner if they would be willing to give pleasure to me in the ways that I'm hoping for. So, instead of just thinking about consent as preventing low bar negative
mm,
experiences, consent, open conversation, getting an enthusiastic yes for something, learning to talk really openly and explicitly about what I'm interested in becomes a pathway to more exploration, more openness, more trust, more freedom to experience more pleasure. It creates trust between two partners. And when there's more trust, there can be more exploration, more experimentation, maybe even moving into things that are a little more risque or might have previously felt more scary or taboo.
mm. Exactly. Wow. So, how can men shift their mindset so that the consent becomes not just an obligation, but a source of deeper intimacy and even the hotter sex as well? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think there are a number of assumptions that are really helpful to begin shattering. One of those is preconceived idea that maybe women are less interested in sex or that women don't get as much pleasure from sex or don't want sex. If you imagine that, for example, in male-female couples, that women actually do want sex, are interested in it, do want to experience pleasure, but that they are scared of being taken advantage of, they're scared of being talked about in negative ways, they're scared of being shamed for their sexuality, consent becomes a pathway to help the partner relax into the sexual experience, relax into their own desire for pleasure. But the other preconceived notion is that for many men, we stay focused on this idea again of getting sex. And I think one thing that's really valuable for men to begin to think about is we have a gift of desire. We have a gift of the desire to give pleasure as well as to receive pleasure. We have a gift in our sexuality, and our consent conversations are ways to learn how to deliver that gift in a way that it can be received. If we just talk about that analogy for a moment of a gift, right? If you've ever been given a gift, maybe even a meal that of food that you didn't like, wasn't pleasant for you, but somebody really insisted on delivering it to you, insisted that you should like it, of course, that becomes a very negative experience.
Yeah.
But if instead someone was going to have you over to their home and they said, "What are your favorite foods? What do you like to eat? How much do you like to eat? What do you like to have as a beverage along with your meal?" Right? We know that that becomes a more pleasurable experience because the person asked what gift they would like to receive, how they would like to receive it. And so that delivery of the gift and the gift itself becomes much easier to accept. And so that's what a skillful lover is, right? Is a person who has a gift to deliver, who learns what gift is desired, how to wrap that gift, how to deliver that gift, when to deliver that gift in a skillful way so that the person who desires it can receive it graciously.
Exactly. Wow. So, wow, lovely. And also like uh you also talk about like erotic, right? What is
Mhm.
erotic and why? So in your work, like what do you see men most often getting wrong about the eroticism?
Uh, I think that there are a lot of different errors. I think the first thing is that a lot of men really assume that uh, self pleasure is wrong, that for men to have desire is somehow immoral, uh, and that uh, there are right ways to be aroused, right things to be aroused by, and that there are similarly wrong things to have all of these experiences around. And what actually happens is that we focus in our erotic life on things that turn us on w- that we didn't choose. Our eroticism is formed out of a number of accidents of our lives. And it's okay to be turned on by something. It's also okay to learn to be turned on by new things. We can remember that just because something in our mind turns us on, that doesn't mean we have to do that or even that we want to do that. We have the opportunity to choose our behavior, and that gives us a lot of choices about
Yeah,
how to express our desires.
understood. And in your experience, like what changes a man when a man moves from entitlement to genuine collaboration in the
Mm,
intimacy?
mm. Well, let's talk a little bit about what entitlement is. Sometimes
Mhm.
when people get into a relationship, they believe that now that I have had sex with this person, or now that we're married, You are responsible for having sex with me how I want and when I want, and I am entitled to that pleasure at whatever frequency or regularity seems appropriate to me. And what that does when a person approaches their partner with that level of entitlement is that it creates uh, an experience in the partner of pressure. It cuts off a sense of emotional or relational attunement. And those two things together will eliminate the partner's desire to connect.
Yeah.
Whereas if I bring my interests, my gift again, and also I get curious, what turns you on? What makes you feel ready? What gives you pleasure? How can I deliver that to you? Does this work? Does that work? When we connected the other night, did you like that? Or were there any pieces of feedback you would like to give me so that I could be a better lover for you? Now we've removed entitlement. We've oriented to the idea that being a good lover is like learning how to play a new, unique musical instrument. That what I thought might work is different than what actually works. And I learn to attune to the actual person, to the rhythms of their desire. And I become more skillful both in asking for my pleasure and in delivering pleasure to my partner because I know that there is no template, no true stamp from the outside world that determines how we are with each other in the privacy of our own home and bedroom.
Mm, exactly. Wow. So, okay, that's amazing. I mean, it really sounds like the transformation is not just about the sex, but it's all about becoming a safer, more magnetic partner overall. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much a lot of men really think about sexuality as a body-oriented skill, right? Like, let me do these things, push
mm,
these buttons, turn those knobs in the right way, and then I'm a good lover. And really, it's about attuning to the individual today, right here, right now, each time,
mm,
new, as if nothing else in the past mattered. It may influence me, but I have to be
mm,
present right now. And that removes entitlement. It requires mindfulness. It requires an emotional sensitivity that goes far beyond physical capacity.
mm, mm. Wow.
Yeah.
And like, do you think that men confuse performance with presence in any ways?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for a lot of men, the idea of performance is a way that we bolster our sense of self, right? Um,
Mm,
am I performing well in school? Have I performed well on the sports field? Have I achieved a lot in business or academics? Am I succeeding in a way that makes my family proud of me? And then we bring those same templates of achievement with us into the bedroom. We look for our
mm,
partners to give us gold stars and high marks on our exams. But
mm,
really, being a good lover is much more like being an artist. Um, one form of art, one form of music appeals to one listener or one perceiver of that painting more than to another. To people like different genres of movie or music. And so we need to attune this lover is the person that I'm trying to paint for. This lover is the partner that I'm trying to play this music for. What are the melodies that work for them? What is the style that works for them? And rather than thinking about just performing, right, it's also an
Mhm.
interactive process. I'm also trying to find enjoyment. Where do the Venn diagrams of our different palettes of pleasure and art overlap so that we can create beautiful music together, so that we can improvise and play jazz without adhering to formal structures of just what's on the sheet? It's something that emerges each session as opposed to a rote experience that is replayed.
Mhm. Got it. And so some people worry that focusing too much on consent and negotiation could kill the mood. So,
Mm.
how do you respond to that uh, tension
Yeah.
between the planning and spontaneity?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I would like to highlight is that consent is a skill. And like any skill, when you're learning it, it does require more self conscious awareness, and you will not do it fluidly. And it may interrupt uh, the moment of passion or the intensity of that experience. But once you gain more facility with it, like with any skill, you become better able to do that with less self conscious awareness and better able to embed the consent process into rising passion and exploration and sense of connection. But even if you couldn't, uh, I always like to just ask people, what we're talking about when we talk about consent, especially in its way of preventing the low bar experiences of preventing a sense of violation or assault in your partner. Would you rather risk that you um, ruin the moment of pleasure, but gain information about consent to protect your partner from feeling awful about you? Or is passion worth risking harming your partner and your relationship? And I think the vast majority of people say, actually, I would much rather leave the person feeling good about me and take the risk that I interrupt a moment of passion in order to stay in my partner's good graces and to be seen as kind and safe. And uh, I think that that is what most of our lovers want from us.
Yeah, true. Wow, amazing. This is really a great, great conversation. And so, Eric, like, if you have to give one advice to the listeners, what that would be?
Don't make any assumptions. Don't make assumptions about how your partner will react to what really interests you. Don't make assumptions about what your partner is or isn't
Mhm.
interested in themselves.
Mhm.
Um, Approach them with genuine, non judgmental curiosity and risk becoming vulnerable to them by sharing with them a little bit at a time what you are interested in. And if they prove themselves to be a non judgmental, open person who is safe to share your interests with, then allow yourself to continue being more vulnerable and take more risks.
Amazing. Wow. Lovely. Great. So, Eric, I mean, this has been such an expansive conversation. And what I love about your work is that it doesn't shame men and it invites them into a deeper version of themselves, like where intimacy is richer, consent is hotter, and the relationships are more alive. So, for those who are listening, take this as your call to action. Reflect on how you show up in your intimate life, and are you leading with presence, curiosity, and respect? Or are you stuck in the old scripts that no longer serve you? Uh, Change is possible, and it starts with awareness. So,
Beautiful.
Eric, yeah, yeah. So, So, Eric, like if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium?
So you can find me on social media at Dr. Eric Fitz, DrEricFitz. And you can also find my website, drericfitz.com. I have a blog there with a lot more writing and
Mhm.
information. And you can also find my book on major booksellers.
Perfect, perfect, lovely. So, great, dear listeners. What I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for a easy reference. And with this hope, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember that pleasure isn't just about the sex, it's all about living fully, authentically, and with the connection at the heart of it all. So, thank you so much.